Once upon a time, in the heart of the quaint town of Maplewood, there nestled a sanctuary known as Brightview Medical Center. It wasn't just a hospital. It was a haven where miracles whispered through the air like secrets carried on a gentle breeze. Tall trees lined the walkway, their leaves rustling softly, as if they too bore witness to the incredible stories that unfolded within its walls. In room 410 of this very establishment, an extraordinary tale was brewing. 8-year-old Oliver Johnson was known around town for his vibrant spirit, an infectious laugh, and a heart bigger than his small frame. With tousled brown hair and countless freckles dusted across his cheeks, he radiated a warmth that drew people in. But on this day, Oliver lay pale and fragile, fighting an unseen battle against the shadows that loomed over him. The rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor served as a grim metronome, marking the seconds that slipped away far too quickly. Julia and Ben, Oliver's devoted parents, sat anxiously by his bedside, their hands intertwined in a silent pact of strength. They wore faces of worry mixed with a fierce determination to face whatever fate awaited their son. The room felt heavy, thick with unspoken fears and sorrow, but it was also a room filled with love. Love that soared across the space and, unbeknownst to the humans, had put its roots down in the four-legged guardian who rested beside Oliver. Max, the family's golden retriever, was more than just a pet. He was Oliver's shadow and his best friend. With a coat that shimmered like sunlight and a disposition that was always cheerful, Max was known around Maplewood for his gentle spirit and unshakable loyalty. He still retained that joyful spark even as he lay against Oliver's outstretched hand, his soulful eyes hungry for reassurance. Hours earlier, Dr. Samuel Reed had entered the room, his expression heavy with the burden of bad news. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "Oliver's heart is failing. There's nothing more we can do." With those words, time itself seemed to freeze in place. The very foundation beneath Julia and Ben crumbled as they clung to the hope of recovery, but the finality of the doctor's statement echoed like a funeral bell in their hearts. The silence that followed was deafening, filled only by the relentless beeping of machines that monitored Oliver's shallow breaths. The world outside the room faded into insignificance. Nothing mattered except for the well-being of their son. Evening began to fall, and the golden light outside dimmed as the first stars made their appearance, twinkling like distant wishes in the velvet sky. As darkness enveloped the hospital, Max seemed to sense that something was amiss. He glanced anxiously from Oliver to Julia, his instincts on high alert. Suddenly, he stood up, his ears perked as if he could hear something they couldn't. Staring intently at the window, Max let out a low whimper, and in that moment, an unexplainable energy filled the room. It was as though he recognized the silent battle within Oliver, one that transcended the boundaries of life and death. With a jolt, Oliver's heart monitor began to beep wildly, the sound piercing through the thick despair in the room. Panic surged as Julia dashed for the door, calling out for the doctor. "Doctor, please, come quick." The chaos unfolded in a flurry of white coats and frantic movement. Nurses rushed in, performing their duties while the atmosphere spiraled into a whirlwind of urgency. Amid the commotion, Dr. Reed barked orders, eyes glued to the monitor. "Get that dog out of here," he commanded, frustration lacing his words. "No, please," Julia cried, her voice trembling. "Let Max stay. He's not just a dog, he's Oliver's heart." In that simple plea was the desperation of a mother who knew, deep down, that this loyal creature held a bond with Oliver that went beyond words. Taken aback by her conviction and the undeniable connection visible between the boy and the dog, Dr. Reed hesitated. He allowed Max to remain, and as the golden retriever lay back against Oliver's hand, a strange peace washed over the room, like a serene wave washing away anguish. It was as if Max was channeling his very essence into Oliver, reminding him that he was not alone. What happened next left everyone in the room rooted in disbelief. As they worked frantically to stabilize Oliver, the heart monitor began to settle into a steadier rhythm, almost as if it was in sync with Max's deep breaths. Slowly, Oliver's eyelids fluttered open, revealing the bright blue depths that had been clouded for too long. "Max, you're here," he whispered, barely audible. Yet it resonated with the force of a million promises. In that moment, the world outside the room faded away, and time stood still, held captive by the miracle brewing before their eyes. Tears cascaded down Julia's cheeks as she and Ben exchanged astonished glances. What had they just witnessed? Was it simply the power of hope, or could it be something more, something woven into the very fabric of their lives? As Oliver's breaths became steadier and his small hand closed around Max's collar, the tension in the room began to dissipate. Dr. Reed stood by, slack-jawed and astounded. He had seen resilience in patients before, but this was a story of a different kind. One that danced along the edges of science and the mystical. Oliver, Julia choked out, brushing her son's hair back from his forehead. You're back. The connection between her son and Max seemed to shimmer in the air, a palpable thread of love binding their hearts together. As the days stretched into nights, hope blossomed within room 410. Oliver's condition improved, and soon he was sitting up, chatting with nurses and cracking jokes, his laughter echoing through the corridors of the hospital as if conquering every shadow that lurked. Max was always by his side, but there was a softening in the dog's gaze, a weariness that warned Julia and Ben that something was not right. The evening of Oliver's dramatic improvement, as the family basked in the glow of happiness, they noticed Max taking longer to rise from his spot on the floor, his tail wagging less fervently each day. Thursday turned into Friday, and the shadow of worry loomed over them like a silent specter. Oliver was regaining his strength, but Max seemed to be giving something of himself, a piece of his very soul. Around the hospital, whispers began weaving tales of the golden retriever who had saved a boy, but Julia and Ben could see through the veil of happiness that Max was unwell. It was as if the dog had poured his entire being into Oliver's recovery. As Dr. Reed continued to express amazement at Oliver's progress, Julia couldn't shake the feeling that every joyful heartbeat of her son was costing Max his vitality. One delicate morning, unable to fight it any longer, Ben kneeled beside Maximum. You've been so brave, buddy. But you need to let us help you, too. You don't have to carry this all alone. He stroked the dog's fur, feeling the weight of their shared affection. But Max merely looked up at him, unblinking and steadfast. The following day, Julia, convinced they needed more help, contacted Dr. Mia Hart, a veterinarian known for her gentle touch with animals. When she arrived, her kind eyes examined Max with a knowing expression. He's incredibly loyal, but he bears too much weight, she murmured, stroking the golden fur with tender reverence. Dogs can feel our troubles, and sometimes, they carry them for us. He's emotionally drained. Julia felt a pang in her heart, a recognition of the unyielding bond that had formed between her son and their beloved dog. Tears began to flow anew as Max lay at Oliver's feet, looking up at his best friend with unwavering love. He needs to know we're here for him now, Oliver said, his voice so small but packed with an unshakable resolve. It's our turn to help him. As the days turned into an emotional roller coaster, they saw both Oliver rise and Max decline. Each laugh from their son felt like it carried the weight of Max's love. But with every smile, there came a new sense of urgency. One fateful night, as the hospital slid into the hushed sanctuary of silence, Ben and Julia sat vigil by their son's bed. They could feel the tension ripple through the air. A palpable reminder that time was wearing thin for Max. Oliver woke suddenly, looking at his parents with clarity. I feel like Max is trying, but he needs to be free, Mom. He helped me find my way back, and now he needs to rest. With tears choking her words, Julia nodded, understanding the significance behind her son's courageous sentiment. Max will always be a part of our family. He taught us what love looks like, and it's something we need to keep in our hearts. Around dawn, as the first rays of sunlight broke through, Max took one last softened breath, his head resting on Oliver's lap as if knowing he could finally let go of the burden he had been carrying. In that sweet moment, surrounded by warmth and comfort, Max's spirit slipped away, leaving behind a glow of unconditional love, the very love that had saved Oliver. The sunrise carried with it a reminder, a bittersweet promise that love transcends the boundaries of life. Oliver held Max's collar tightly, knowing that their bond could never be broken. Julia and Ben wrapped their arms around their son, feeling the profound impact of a dog who, in his final act, had taught them all the meaning of sacrifice and love. As the days turned into weeks and the weekly visits to the hospital transitioned into everyday life, the Johnsons carried Max's spirit with them. Oliver, though saddened by the loss, felt empowered by the gift of love that had been bestowed upon him. Inspired by Max's selflessness, the family vowed to keep the legacy alive. They began volunteering at the local animal shelter, rescuing countless dogs and giving them loving homes. Each wagging tail reminded them of Max, fueling their mission to embody the love they had received. The shelter became a second home, a sanctuary filled with the happiness of dogs and the laughter of children. Oliver was now actively involved every weekend, playing with the dogs, feeding them, and even helping to organize adoption events. Each dog they saved felt like a tribute to Max, and Oliver poured his heart into every interaction, sharing the lessons learned from his beloved friend. As seasons changed, so did the hearts of the rescued animals. One breezy afternoon, while helping with a particularly energetic litter of puppies, Oliver met a scruffy little terrier named Daisy. With her mismatched ears and a playful spirit that mirrored his own, she instantly captured his heart. Though small in size, Daisy had a fierce energy and an unbreakable will. As Oliver raised her to eye level, he couldn't help but see the essence of Max reflected in her playful eyes. It wasn't long before Daisy became an inseparable part of the Johnson family. The day they brought her home was filled with joyous laughter, reminiscent of the warmth Max had always brought into their lives. Though she could never replace Max, Daisy slowly began to fill the void left behind. She danced around Oliver's feet, her small body wagging with joy, and for the first time since losing Max, Oliver felt a spark of happiness reignite within him. Yet, the spirit of Max lingered, often manifesting in the loving memories shared between the family. At night, Oliver would whisper stories about Max to Daisy, recounting their adventures, the lessons learned, and the power of love that spans across boundaries. Julia and Ben often joined in, reminiscing about how Max's bravery and loyalty had saved their son. One special day, the family decided to hold a memorial for Max, inviting friends from the animal shelter and the entire Maplewood community to celebrate the impact he had on their lives. They organized a beautiful ceremony in the park, where Oliver, with tears in his eyes and a smile on his face, shared the profound story of his friendship with Max. Max taught me, he began, looking out at the crowd, that love is the most powerful force in the world. It can heal, it can uplift, and it can save lives. Even though he's no longer with us in person, he lives on in our hearts and in every dog we help at the shelter. His spirit flows through the love we share with them. As he spoke, the clearing was filled with images of Max, reflections of joy and gratitude for a life well lived. A nearby bench stood adorned with a portrait of him, surrounded by flowers and bright colors, vibrant reminders of the joy he had brought to so many. Laughter mingled with tears, as everyone shared their fondest memories of the golden retriever, who had been a light in their lives. The celebration grew potent that day, knitting the community tighter together. Oliver realized that through their shared heartbreak, they had united in joy, ensuring Max's legacy continued in every wagging tail and happy bark they encountered. They planted a tree in the park, a living memorial that would grow and thrive just as Max had touched each of their souls. Years drifted by, each day illuminating the lessons that love, friendship, and sacrifice could teach. Oliver blossomed into a compassionate young man, inspired by Max's spirit to advocate for animal rights and improving shelters in Maplewood. He started a club at school that encouraged his peers to volunteer and raise funds for the local shelter, spreading awareness about the importance of adopting rather than buying pets. Daisy stood proudly by his side, maturing into a wise and guardian-like companion, always ready for the next adventure. Each summer brought with it a new wave of puppies in need of forever homes. The Johnsons organized annual fundraisers known as the Maxapalooza, a celebration of love, companionship, and giving back. The event featured games, food, and joyful festivities, drawing in families from all over Maplewood. It became a cherished tradition, enabling them to save countless animals over the years, all while keeping the spirit of Max alive. One day, as Oliver was working diligently on plans for the next Maxapalooza, he received a call from the shelter. They had a particularly challenging situation. A group of dogs that had been abandoned and needed immediate help. Oliver felt a surge of determination and compassion race through him. He quickly rallied his friends from school, and they organized a rescue mission to help these dogs find a new home. The team launched a campaign that encouraged the community to meet the dogs looking for love. As they entered the rundown shelter, they could sense the fear and uncertainty in the eyes of the animals. It was at that moment that Oliver felt deeply connected to Max and all that he had represented. He knew that if he could embody just a fraction of Max's amazing spirit, they could overcome any challenge together. The community rallied to support the effort, showing up in overwhelming numbers for Meet Your New Best Friend Day. Oliver, alongside Daisy, introduced the dogs one by one, carefully matching families with their future companions. The excitement was palpable. With every wagging tail that found a family, joy spilled into the air, a reminder of that unbreakable bond between animals and humans. After a long day filled with laughter and a few tears of joy, the shelter transformed as dog after dog walked out with new families. Oliver felt an immense sense of accomplishment, his heart swelling as he finally understood the true depth of love, one that could heal and transform lives. As he surveyed the happy families, he caught a glimpse of Max's spirit dancing amongst the joyous gatherings, reminding him that love, once ignited, could change the world in beautiful ways. As autumn arrived, vividly painting the tree-lined streets of Maplewood with hues of gold and crimson, Oliver's heart brimmed with gratitude. Sitting beneath the tree planted in Max's honor, he cradled Daisy in his lap and thought about how far they had come. All the lives they had touched, the dogs saved, and the joy shared. It was a legacy woven into the fabric of their daily lives. Years later, on the day Oliver turned 18, he stood at the same tree with his friends and family gathered around, ready to embark on a new chapter. As he listened to the laughter and joy that filled the air, it suddenly dawned on him that this day wasn't just about him. It was a celebration of the love, courage, and hope instilled in their lives by a four-legged hero named Max. With gratitude in his heart and dreams of making the world a better place, Oliver made a promise that day. With Daisy by his side, he vowed to always honor Max's legacy, spreading love, advocating for animals, and uplifting hearts wherever he went. His journey, ignited by a friendship that transcended the boundaries of life, had only just begun. And so, in the heart of Maplewood, the spirit of Max continued to thrive through the lives he touched, reminding everyone that love always finds a way to save us, leading us to a brighter path, one wagging tail at a time. With every new story that unfolded, every new friendship forged, and every dog rescued, Oliver ensured that the heartwarming tale of Max would echo through generations, a beautiful testament to the enduring power of compassion, connection, and the love that knows no bounds. And, forevermore, among the rustling leaves and the vibrant sunsets, Max's spirit danced on, a gentle reminder that true love never truly fades away.